And greetings. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to the Steve Deace Show here live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. Like MacArthur returning to the Philippines. Trump returning to Butler, PA.
No.
I have returned. Seriously, I'm back here in the studio. If you guys are listening on the podcast, at least it looks like it's going to be just for one day, though. I'll tell you why in a minute. And then I forgot my earpiece. So I'm wearing the old school headphones today. But temps have gotten down into the 40s the last couple of nights. I'm thinking that'd be enough to drive them underground, at least for today. I can come in maybe and see you guys. I've missed being here. And you guys told me you've seen nothing so far this week, right?
Correct.
Things were looking good. And then Todd, what happened literally 5 minutes ago?
Wasp.
Flying right over the top of my head. Yep. So here we are. It is truly unbelievable. I mean,
I don't know. So it's come to be the most believable thing there is.
This is Amityville horror flies in the room, no matter what you do, all over the window level stuff. Okay, it's just truly unbelievable. Anyway, we're brought to you by our friends over at Farmer Bills. Of course, we're concerned about supply chain issues. We're also concerned about who actually even owns our supply chain. For example, at least one of the big corporate meatpacking plants is owned by Chinese money. So if you want America First Beef that just launched out of South Dakota, their name is Farmer Bills, and what they're selling isn't just beef, it's beef biltong. Conventional beef jerky is loaded with sugar, soy, nitrates, and fillers. Biltong is an air-dried delicacy that America is just now discovering. It's a cured meat snack without the sugar, soy, nitrates, and fillers from an America First company with a fully American supply chain, and they source their beef and bison from the grasslands of South Dakota and support among American ranchers. So if you want to get some, it's fantastic, man. Their flavors include original beef. I've done the spicy chili beef, and it was very, very good. I have a couple samples for you guys, which I forgot to bring with me.
Oh, good. That's the best news I've heard this week.
So you guys have samples coming. I forgot to bring them with me. Okay. So if you guys want to sample it right now, why reach for a protein bar full of carbs or sugar or ultra processed jerky when you go to farmerbillsprovisions.com? Try their best seller bundle to get all 4 flavors. That is farmerbillsprovisions.com and use the code Steve for 10% off your order. farmerbillsprovisions.com, promo code Steve for 10% off your order. Also, remember, we've launched a brand new subscription tier here at the Blaze TV Unlimited. You can get our new Frontier magazine as a part of that. This first month's offerings include Mark Levin, Glenn Beck, Chris Rufo, and more. You can get a limited edition founding members card, even more behind-the-scenes content, VIP event access, and partner more closely and intimately with us as we continue to push back on state-run media. Essentially, this is your chance to become a Blaze VIP. So you can join Blaze Unlimited today at blazeunlimited.com/Deace to claim your spot. blazeunlimited.com/Deace. All right, coming up on the show here today, Dominion has been our theme this year. Take control of that which you can control. And one of the things we have way more control over than we have been exercising, our state legislatures. And at the bottom of the hour, pardon me, we're going to introduce you to the very kind of man we need to be electing in state legislatures across the country. So stay tuned for that at the bottom of the hour. Next hour, we're going to get into idolatry or not. There's a couple of clips from Elon Musk's interview with Tucker Carlson I want us to play and then respond to. We'll get into that. Pop Culture Tuesday, we'll discuss yet another multi-million-dollar flop from Hollywood that just keeps deciding to make movies that insult their customer base, and it keeps failing. So we'll get into all that and more. But first, let's get into Aaron's rundown of what happened while we were away.
What happened while we were away, brought to you by Milton. For the first time in almost 100 years, Tampa Bay, Florida is in the path of a major hurricane. Milton strengthened quickly yesterday, becoming a Category 5 hurricane over the Gulf of Mexico before weakening today. It's still expected to inflict major damage to Florida's Gulf Coast region. It's an area that's scrambling to simultaneously clean up after Hurricane Helene just a couple of weeks ago and evacuate at the same time. Debris from that former storm could turn into projectiles with the next. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis ordered all landfills to remain open 24/7 in the affected areas so cleanup could continue around the clock. One landfill in Pinellas County, Florida, shirked that order, so the authorities tore open the gate to that landfill. This morning, DeSantis announced around 37,000 linemen are on standby for Milton. 1.2 million gallons of fuel is incoming with trooper escorts. Florida National and State Guard mission has activated with thousands of guardsmen, and dozens of search and rescue aircraft are on standby. There was a narrative going around yesterday that Vice President Kamala tried to call DeSantis regarding the hurricane, but the governor didn't take her call for political reasons. DeSantis later said that was BS.
I think some of these questions are trying to create some type of political angle where there's just none there. What we've asked for has been approved. You're not seeing me out there carping or complaining about anything. We have gotten what we need from the feds. We have been working constructively with all the local communities. We have marshaled an incredible amount of resources.
To which Kamala responded,
You know, moments of crisis, if nothing else, should really be the moment that anyone who calls themselves a leader says they're going to put politics aside and put the people first.
and of course, DeSantis later destroyed Kamala.
It's not about you, Kamala.
Right.
It's about the people of Florida. My focus is exactly where it should be. And I can tell you this, I've worked on these hurricanes under both President Trump and President Biden. Neither of them ever tried to politicize it. She has never called on any of the storms we've had since she's been vice president until apparently now. Why all of a sudden is she trying to parachute in and inject herself when she's never shown any interest in the past? We know it's because of politics. We know it's because of her campaign. I have zero time to entertain these political games. We're going to continue to do what we need to do to prepare and respond to what may be one of the most damaging storms in the history of the United States. So she says focusing on protecting your people is selfish. I think she ought to look in the mirror.
Well, Kamala got a look in that mirror last night during her interview with 60 Minutes.
They say that the reason so many voters don't know you is that you have changed your position on so many things. You were against fracking, now you're for it. You supported looser immigration policies, now you're tightening them up. You were for Medicare for all, now you're not. So many that people don't truly know what you believe or what you stand for, and I know you've heard that.
In the last 4 years, I have been Vice President of the United States, and I have been traveling our country.
On the topic of Israel and Prime Minister Netanyahu,
It seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
Well, Bill, the work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region.
and now a live look at Kamala's brain. Moving on, a new report shows hospitals in the United States raked in $120 million performing meatball surgery in the name of gender on thousands of children. According to new data compiled by the medical watchdog Do No Harm, this is a first-of-its-kind database which logs meatball surgeries given to gender-confused children nationwide between 2019 and 2023 and catalogs a total of 5,747 minors who underwent that meatball surgery in the name of gender. That's along with 8,579 who obtained chemical castration, again, in the name of gender. In Chimney Rock, North Carolina, Fox News' Sarah Carter interviewed a local sheriff and asked him what he would tell the White House about their response to the devastation from Hurricane Helene.
Do the things you've been talking about doing. We just assume you stay out of the way and let the good men and women around the mountain area and the foothills take care of our own, because you're nothing more than a boat anchor.
No help. FEMA hasn't been helpful.
Wait a minute. That lady that's running for president talks about the $750. What about all that money you give to Ukraine and all these other people that really want to kill us, don't want to do anything to help us? Why don't you just give that money to them? That's who you want to give it to begin with.
Evangelicals for Harris update. The porn industry is now spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on a campaign targeting young men, urging them to vote for Harris, saying if she's not elected, their porn will go bye-bye. And finally, this alpha and omega tweet from the Daily Wire's Brett Cooper. Trump was invited onto a sex and relationships show and declined. Kamala accepted. Kamala was invited on Dave Ramsey's show to talk about the economy. She declined and Trump accepted. That should tell you a lot about their priorities. Indeed. And that's what happened while we were away.
Indeed. That is well said by Brett Cooper over there at Daily Wire. Aaron's Montage brought to you by our friends over at Birch Gold. As you continue to see the government debasement scheme, the managed decline that we are fully immersed in. Now you have Kamala Harris talking about just straight up Marxism, taxes on unrealized gains and the like. Now is the time to make sure you go where smart people have gone with their money to hide it from government debasement schemes, protect it for centuries, and that's gold. Birch Gold will assist you in converting an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold. And the best news, you won't have to pay a penny out of pocket. Just text the word Steve to 989-898 and get a free info kit on gold. There's no obligation, just information on fortifying your savings before the crazy really hits, if it hasn't already. With an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau and thousands of happy customers, you can trust Birch Gold too. Text Steve to the number 989-898. That's text Steve to the number 989-898 for your free info kit today. Pardon me. Okay. Let's get into a couple of things out of Aaron's Montage, and we're going to talk about that report, that Island of Dr. Moreau summary report that Aaron cited in his montage. That is coming up in the overtime later today for Blaze TV subscribers at blazetv.com/Deace. There's two things I want to highlight, though, from the montage that I think are worthy of elaboration and further discussion. Number one, watching Ron DeSantis in a crisis it's truly something to behold. I mean, it just, there's a saying in sports, some guys are just gamers, that some guys just practice isn't their thing. They're bored by it. It's not real. What's the point? Okay. And it doesn't mean they're not out there trying. They're just not out there doing the best that they could do. And then suddenly when the lights come on, okay, when the lights go on and the pressure is on, they shine, right? And we have a joke here on the inside of this show because people find out that I don't write this show out. Most people, a lot of hosts in this industry will write out their shows. I don't write anything. Aaron, how many teleprompters do we have here in the studio? Zero. How many have we ever had?
One person, like some group that was trying to get you to record a spot, wanted you to record something that was like 10 minutes long verbatim. Yep. Did we use the teleprompter then?
No.
And I don't know where it is now.
Yeah, neither do I. So we don't script anything. We don't teleprompter anything. I don't write when I go out and do, speaking engagements around the country. I don't write out what I'm going to say ahead of time. I don't do prepared speeches or text. Now, Aaron, when we try to record spots and things like that, how many times am I able to do it in just one take? Not very often.
Better than the average bear.
Because I do this for a living.
Correct.
But for whatever reason,
the pressure of being live is not there.
Yeah. For whatever reason, when I have to sit and just go stand in front of the crowd, when we turn the mic on, when the lights go on, I'm ready to go. When we're sitting here and there's like no pressure and it's just casual recording something, okay, I'm like, oh crap, I forgot to start the clock. Oh crap, I got that word wrong. Oh man, I read that wrong. Okay, I'm kind of a gamer myself, so I kind of get that mentality, And I think frankly a lot of the campaign stuff just isn't as fascinating and interesting to Ron DeSantis as a lot of the wielding power stuff is. It's just really not. And I think you can see when those lights come on, okay, when the lights go on there, dude is Roy frickin' Hobbs, okay? May not look like Roy Hobbs in the batting cage. Know what I'm saying? May not look like Roy Hobbs in the batting cage, but when the ump says play ball and bullets are live and the other teams, their guys on the mound 60 feet 6 inches away, bringing the heat, the dude stands in the box in those moments and delivers. And back-to-back Category 4 or worse hurricanes in a week and a half span of time, on top of what he's trying to do with the election and amendments and everything down there. I mean, in a way, we don't even think about it. We don't even discuss it. We just kind of take for granted, oh, he's got this. Right? It is. And the way, here, I have no idea what the ultimate truth here is. Between, did Kamala, is it, I have no idea what the ultimate truth here is. Whether she ever tried to contact him or not, or he was too busy or not, okay? You know, this seems to me like a story where, is it entirely possible that Kamala tried to contact him, maybe, but really wasn't wholehearted about doing so, you know, maybe just wanted a talking point. And maybe they knew, is it possible that someone got contacted in the governor's office and they were like, yeah, we're not getting Chris Christie here with Barack Obama in the final couple weeks before the election. You don't get to do that to us. All right. We've worked fine with the Biden White House directly. And maybe, maybe that's a call we're going to, is that entirely possible that is what occurred here? It is. It's also impossible. Who knows? When you look at everybody's call logs and how intentional everybody was, but the way that he has turned this around on them, and then the use of Biden, the deft use of Biden to deflect against her and say, "Hey, I worked fine with him." You didn't hear me ever complain about anything from D.C. the whole time he was president. I worked fine with the president in the White House. That was a masterclass politically in how not to step into the trap of letting Kamala worm her way into what Chris Christie allowed Barack Obama to use him for in the final days of the 2012 campaign, if you all remember that, right? Okay. That was a masterclass in how not to let Kamala get away with doing that. And then also, though, not to open yourself up to her charges that, well, you're the one that's actually politicizing this and putting her down in public as well by using Biden against her. I mean, folks, I'm just telling you, I've done this professionally, covered politics every day for a living, professionally, for the last 18 and a half years. And the amount of folks I have seen while holding power and governing, right? It's hard enough to do this if you are just a candidate. But while holding power and capably governing, the amount of people I've seen capable of doing what he accomplished here in the last 24 hours politically, it's a small list, and it frankly might be a list of one. Yeah. And if he's going to run for president again, he's going to have to figure out, then that's practice, okay? He's going to have to figure out how to shine more in the batting cage, okay? Because not everybody gets to see all the games all the time, right? You don't live in Florida, you don't see what he does every day, okay? But hopefully we'll be able to have that conversation in a couple of years. We'll be afforded that luxury. But when there is a crisis, man, cash money, homie.
Well, most politicians are Frodo in that speech in the cave when they just they're waiting to figure out where to go, and he's kind of whining about, and why did this fall on me? And Gandalf says, it's not ours to choose the times we live in. Mm-hmm. It's ours to do what we can with the times that we have. And that's like, DeSantis has like that, that's his tramp stamp or something like that. Yeah. He absolutely lives that. And your baseball analogy is perfect. He gets in the box and he delivers. Well, he clearly is Roy Hobbs. He's a 400 hitter. But as remarkable as delivering amongst men these age, most men aren't even willing to get in the box, man. Correct. We take some 250 hitters at this point, dude.
Yes.
That's the thing. He understands the game. He doesn't resent it. He always says, let's play ball. Half the problem is our men won't even play and pick up the bat.
You have any other thoughts on this, Aaron?
Yeah. He's just a better man than 95% of the men in this country. He just is.
Yeah.
Look at the timeline of this of his life the last year. in the middle of running for president, he was hit with another hurricane. I can't remember the name. Was it Ian last fall? He was hit with that. Did a remarkable job.
I actually totally forgot.
Yeah,
if that tells you anything, I totally forgot about that.
Did a remarkable job. Gets back on the campaign trail. Just campaigns his guts out in Iowa. Loses by a lot. Goes back to Florida. Rules and again governs with just supreme efficacy, the efficacy that Pfizer's horse doctor Albert Bourla continues to claim that the Pfizer or the COVID jab has. He's actually that effective in governing down there. Does his job, gets hit with another hurricane in Helene, just starting to clean up from that. Most people, even good men, would be standing looking at Milton coming while you're still trying to clean up from that mess. And say, I wish the ring had not passed to me. Can I get a frickin' break here? But
right.
Nope, he just steps right back up, steps right back into the ring, gets back up. Even in a time where masculinity, like authentic masculinity, were more of a regular thing in this country, DeSantis would be the type of guy who stood out even amidst that backdrop. So, again, you're lucky. In Florida. You are lucky.
No doubt about it. Which brings us to Kamala Harris. And it feels to me like, and I'm saying feels because in terms of empirical data, it's all over the place. I mean, you can find a poll for every narrative you want, from any side, in any direction you prefer. And we're voting in much of the country already right now. Okay. And we're also dealing with a sliver of voters. I mean, Kamala Harris could sing the Soviet national anthem and pledge a copy of Das Kapital in every school kid's backpack. And she's getting 45% of the electorate. That's just where we are. She can't get any lower than that. That's just where we are. I mean, the guy we just talked about, and for all the good he did in Florida, 40% of Floridians in the last election still said, I wish he would have masked us and closed us down more and bankrupted us and taxed us more. Right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so we have to understand that there is now embedded upon the body politic of America is a giant tumor. Okay, a giant tumor, a malignant tumor is there. And the worldview we're up against is now just too embraced by too many people that clear distinctions and verdicts like a 1984 kind of election just are not feasible any longer, or at least for the foreseeable future. And so, like, a lot of you are going to be given a lot of information on mail-in balloting and in these battleground states and where it was compared to 2020. You can't believe any of it. I'm just telling you that right now. We have no control group, guys. Okay? We don't know. We don't know, because 2020 was the first year we ever had en masse mail-in balloting. We didn't have that in 2016. Like Pennsylvania didn't have en masse mail-in balloting in 2016. So we can't compare it to a non-COVID year when still much of the country was shut down. You see what I'm saying? So we have no control group to know, because their mail-in balloting is behind where it was in 2020 and significantly, but we don't know what that means. It might mean good things for us. It also might mean more of their people just aren't going to do mail-in balloting because they can go vote themselves. We don't know the answer to that. There's a lot of things we don't know the answer to. And so the next 4 weeks, you're going to probably hear me say, it feels like, or it kind of, my sense is, because I don't know that we're going to get a lot of empirical data that claims otherwise. Is there another one above my head as we speak?
No.
Okay. All right. So with that disclaimer, let me say this. It feels like she is fully on the defensive as a candidate for the very first time in this race. It feels like that.
Aren't the media setting up narratives? I mean, that CBS News, that was not a puff piece at all.
No.
That was not a puff piece on 60 Minutes last night.
No, it was not. And by the way, sending a black reporter to do that to her, which, do what to her? Ask her questions that anybody running for president should be willing to ask. I mean, think about this, as 10 minutes ago before we came on, or 10 minutes before we came on the air, The View, of all places, was the first place to ask Kamala Harris, is there anything that you differ with Joe Biden on? And she said no. Is there any policies that you would do differently? And she said no. She wants to fully own that record. So it feels like she's on the defensive. Like even going to that slut cast, what's it called?
Call Her Daddy.
Yeah, is it Call Her Daddy or Call Me Daddy? One of the two. I can understand even if you're Kamala and that's your base and you're going there to introduce yourself shortly after you're the nominee. Okay? But you have to go there a few weeks before. I mean, you see what I'm saying? I mean, how many people, she's probably getting everybody that's going to vote on the slutcast is already voting for her, right? You know? I mean, even that kind of seems to me like a rear guard action. Also, though, that could be indicative of they also don't know their numbers, their data isn't sure who's going to vote, who's not. So it could be that they are leaning more into this being more of a turn out your base election and they're concerned about it. Their energy level like we are when we see things where there's only 51% of people that describe themselves as religious are planning on voting, according to Barna. So but that goes back to what I just said a few minutes ago. I can find you a piece of data on anything you want that will give you whatever narrative you want to embrace at the given time. But in terms of how the sense I have is it feels like she's on the defensive. And she is for the first time being forced to remind people why she had the lowest approval rating of any vice president since we've been asking the question, that she really is a Veep episode come to life, that we are dealing with a moron level IQ here that clearly is not qualified to be president. It does feel like for the first time that is getting exposed because let's be honest, Trump did not do a good job of exposing that in the one debate shot he had at her. And if anything, helped her look even more presidential and viable as a candidate than she was coming in. So your guys' thoughts on that? You guys have the same sense that I have right now?
Well, are we dealing with a moron level IQ that isn't certain about the ground below her? Yes, but are we dealing with a moron level IQ that would go on that show because they're also shrewd enough to understand that the base and the population at large is a moron level IQ? Steve, you just alluded to it. It was just yesterday, basically, that if a natural disaster happened before an election and it would set aside the human suffering, Republican or Democrat, you have a ready-made opportunity to just look like a super swell individual who just goes out and helps the people and gets a couple boosts. They are not doing that and going on the podcast like this. It's not just like tone deafness. It's not just desperation, which it was. Mm-hmm. It says a lot about who we are as a people, what we value, what we're paying attention to, what we care about. So is she dumb? Yes, but so are we.
Yep. If your analysis starts with Kamala Harris, you're doing this backwards. It has to start with who we are as a people and then work your way up from that. Because ultimately, as Todd has said, and your column now out today says, this really has nothing to do with policy. It has nothing to do with personalities. It really doesn't. It really doesn't. It has to do with who we are as a people, whether we can even be bothered to lift a finger, to have any say about the future. That's what this is about. Can we lift a finger to even be interested in this election? I heard on the way to work one day last week, one of the sports hosts on Sirius XM said, "I'm tired of politics. I'm just ready for the election to get over with. Just tell us who won. I'm tired of everybody fighting." If that is the mass soul of this nation, mm-hmm. then we deserve everything that's coming.
Email I just received. Subject line, the telltale wasp. First of all, it's a great subject line because I'm a big Poe guy too. So my morning has been incredibly busy and I would have forgotten to turn on your show in 4 minutes, but a wasp started flying around in my bedroom and I immediately remembered it is time for your show. Mary Ann Parsons in Pennsylvania.
What did Josiah say when he came in?
Oh yeah, Josiah, who's one of the campaign guys here at the Family Leader, said a wasp showed up at their church on Sunday and just sat on the pulpit of their pastor for like 15 minutes during his message. This is crazy. This is nuts, guys. Even Todd now won't even push back anymore. More in a moment. All right, back here on the Steve Deace Show, powered by our friends at My Patriot Supply. And I got to tell you, based on what we saw in North Carolina and how the system in place has failed the people there, I finally made the call to our friends at My Patriot Supply. And I said, hook me up. All right, I'm in. I want the water filtration system. I want the 4-week emergency food kit. I mean, I just got to start listening to my own ads. All right. So I'm now a customer. All right. So if you are like, okay, yeah, probably me too. I mean, I'm hearing horror stories, even from states where the government there doesn't hate our people, like South Carolina. I've heard from our president, Gaston Mooney, what's been going on in his community, trying to dig out from this, and days without power and everything else. You know what? Just make sure you're ready, folks. Get the 4-week emergency food kit from My Patriot Supply with over 2,000 calories per day. That's breakfast, lunch, dinner, even drinks and snacks, so that you know you're ready the next time. That's never going to happen here. Happens here. All right? So that's why I'm in. So you can get $50 off the same 4-week emergency food kit that I just ordered right now, and get free shipping too when you go to preparedwithdace.com. Preparedwithdace.com is where you can go. $50 off your 4-week emergency food kit, and it is shipped for free at preparewithdace.com. So our theme on the show this year has been dominion. That ultimately every meaningful battle and fight we have down here on this mortal coil ultimately is a debate, is a fight over dominion. Who's in control? Who's the authority? Who has the power? And then as well, it means what is it that we can actually control? Control what we can control. And yes, this is a very big national election. We should be informed and aware of what's happening within it. We're also, the vast majority of us also are really in little to no position to en masse influence it. We can all influence it in the micro, in our families, in our relationships. But if we don't like an ad, if we don't like a strategy, and at the macro level, there's really nothing we can do to deter it. All right. So doesn't mean we shouldn't pay attention to it, but it does mean maybe we should invert the ratio of attention we pay to things and pay attention more to the things that we do have more direct influence over. For example, one of the most, if other than governor, the most important position in American politics right now is the state legislature. And that's why you see our friend Daniel Horowitz working on, with a few others, doing, freedom caucuses in state legislatures around the country. What kind of person is it that what kind of man, really, because that's what I think we need more than anything else, men who understand the times and what to do about them. What kind of men should we be electing to our state legislatures that are willing to, you can know the doctrine of interposition, you can spell nullification, you can do all those things, but if you're not willing to do them, if you don't have the courage of conviction to stand up to the pressure and say no, then it's just head knowledge and doesn't matter. I want to introduce you to one of them right now, and he just so happens to be a very good friend of mine. And his name is Mike Pike, and he's running for state senate here in one of our Des Moines suburbs. And it's good to see you, brother. How are you?
Thanks for having me on, Steve.
So, I mean, you are literally taking a break out from you're doing appointments around the city, with Pike Mechanical. You're in uniform.
I tried to make it home to change. I've been at 3 different places, fixed a faucet earlier today, checked up on a couple jobs, marked out for some floor cuts, and said, you know what? I'm not going to make it home. I'm coming in my work clothes. This is not a lot of candidates do commercials and go out with their blue jeans looking in a field. Well,
right.
The fact is I wear my work clothes every day because that's what I do.
And the thing is, if you would have called me ahead of time and said, what should I wear? I would have told you to wear that anyway. So it worked out great. Okay. But in all seriousness, you really are kind of, to me, I think you're the archetype of the kind of man that we have to be electing into public office. And it has nothing to do with the fact you're a friend of mine. We've got lots of other guys in our friend group that I don't think right now are in a position they should be running for public office. They're great guys, but I don't think they're necessarily public office material, right? You think I'm a great guy. I probably wouldn't be much help to you on many of your job sites at Pike Mechanical, would I?
You definitely would not.
I just would get in the way, would I not? Yes. Now, I'm really good at bringing you business. Helping you actually do the business, though, not my thing, right? No. So what is it about you? And I think it is a guy that has a strong faith, number one, has a strong family life, number two, has a strong sense of community, and has built and done something in that community. And so it's not just a means to an end. It's not just I'm doing this to get to the next step of my political career, but this is where I live, and I have pride in it and I care about it. So let's start with that. What is who are you? What's your story?
Who am I? What's my story? And anyone in Central Iowa has seen this commercial. I was, raised on the same street that I live now. My mom passed away 6 years ago, but my dad still lives there across the street. So we live across the street from them. I've been married to my wife for 26 years, have 6 children, a son, and 5 daughters. Literally, I'm an extremely boring guy. Moved 300 feet away.
I can attest to that. He is.
Worked 2 jobs my entire life, including Hy-Vee. Everyone in Iowa has to work at Hy-Vee.
Where there's a helpful smile in every aisle.
That's
Indeed,
right.
It's a rite of passage.
Apparently, I wasn't so helpful. But I'm a tradesman. I have my own plumbing, heating, cooling company. I went through the apprenticeship program so I've worked in the trades my entire life. I'm a blue collar guy. I love hard work, and I like to do hard things. And first of all, I went down to the Capitol for a hearing on defining a woman. Let me back this up a little bit. I get together with a bunch of guys at my shop. Todd's actually been there before. And we sit around and we don't just ponder the fuzz in our navel. That's absolutely pointless to do. We need to be men of action. And so we like to challenge each other. And one of the guys said, hey, there's a hearing down at the Capitol on defining a woman. I said, well,
this is the one Todd and I spoke at, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I might not be an expert, but I do have 5 daughters, and I think I know what a woman is, so let's go. Mm-hmm. So we went down to this hearing, and I didn't make it into the committee hearing room, and it ended up outside in the rotunda, and listened to a bunch of people chant a bunch of vulgarities the whole time, signs up, chanting, so on and so forth. And we basically get back to my shop after that, and I said, enough's enough. We cannot have a society where we allow this sort of thing to happen. Again, my daughters play volleyball. I know there's been cases. In fact, a girl got brain damage, I think I don't remember if it was high school or college, from a hard hit with a volleyball. Mm-hmm. And we've seen this in multiple sports, in track and soccer and so on and so forth, swimming. This is just something that the fact that we're even sitting here talking about this is utterly ridiculous. And I'm not going to put up with it. And so, that's in part why I'm running, but it's also men need to take action. Todd said this many times. We need to do something. I think COVID was a refiner for me. And it definitely hardened me in the sense that what the heck is going on? Mm-hmm. All these people are just going with the flow and doing what they're told. And the reality does not line up with what people are doing. So no, I'm not going to do that. And I think you can only do things and do hard things if you have conviction. Mm-hmm. Because it's not just what everyone else says. You could tell me to do something, Todd could tell me, Aaron could tell me. You guys all might be doing the same thing. Now, if it's the right thing, I'll do it with you. But if it's not the right thing, see you guys, it's been great, but we've got to get to that point that we're not looking for the adulation of men. We're trying to honor God in this, in our lives, and how we raise our families, and how we serve each other, and how we care for each other, And that's simply being involved in politics in this respect. You said, about your political career. I have no political career. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. I don't really want a political career. I want to go in and serve my constituents, my people in District 20, to the best of my ability. And I want to, honor God while doing it. Plain and simple. If they don't want me after 4 years, fine. But while I'm campaigning, I'm going to go out every day. I'm going to door knock. I'm going to do everything I can to where I can't look at the end of this race and say, you know what? I was kind of lazy. It was great, man. Rah-rah, I ran for state senate. Who cares? I don't care about running for state senate. I care about finishing well, and I care about where I'm at in life right now, that I don't want to be able to look at my kids years down the road and said, you know what? I tried 5 daughters, but, I wasn't able to do anything because I chose not to do anything. This is not easy to do. I'm still running a company. I'm still raising a family. I have 2 seniors this year and a junior, and they're playing volleyball, and there's tournaments every weekend. So literally this last weekend, I drove down to Kansas City and drove back up to be able to do some door knocking and then do an event later that day. So it's not easy. Has nothing to do with whether it's hard or easy. Do it regardless. You should count it joy that you're doing something hard. That's a good thing. That's what refines us.
Amen.
Take 1 minute and make your pitch to the men in this audience that are thinking, I don't think I can do it. I don't think I have the time. I don't think I'm smart enough. What would you say to them?
When I decided to do this, it wasn't about education. I frankly do not know much politically and how the intricacies of how the government works. I know enough to be dangerous, so to speak, but it's not about any of that. It's like, God, does he call the prepared or does he prepare the called? Well, guys, he prepares the called. I felt called to run for state senate, and I was prepared also to do what was required of me, which is to go door knock and just everything that's required of that. But more so, I have something right here. I want to ask if anybody thinks any of these guys were prepared. Monroe, 18. Burr, 20. Hamilton, 21. Madison, 25. Jefferson, 33. Adams, 44. Adams, 40. Washington, 44. These are just a few of our founding fathers.
Yep.
These guys were kids, even Washington. I'm 48. These guys were young. We talk on Wednesday night, and one of the guys is like, man, we've wasted a lot of time. Yeah, we have wasted a lot of time. I kind of feel ashamed that at 48, I'm finally getting in this. I've been raising my family, and I understand all that. And we get busy, and we like to rah-rah about, oh, well, it's great those people are out protesting. I'm busy raising my family. Well, the reality is we need to be active too. As men, we need to stand up. We need to lead our family, and anything that a man should be involved in, and government is just one of them, just as much as their church or any civic, thing that they're involved in. They need to stand up and they need to lead. Is it a bit uncomfortable? Of course it is. It has nothing to do with that. These men stood up. They put up their lives, fortunes, and sacred honors. They very well could have lost it all. It had nothing to do about that. It's doing the right thing, standing up and doing the right thing.
I've got 3.5 minutes, so I want to make sure we also have time for you to give people information on your race at the end. But can you give our audience around the country a little intel? For people that don't know, you're in a new district, but this is a working class, suburban, kind of a half union, half college educated, suburb that was traditionally a Democratic era, but in the Trump era, has become a little bit more open to candidates like you. So if you have knocked on doors here, what are you saying that our audience around the country should know about?
A lot. Probably the foremost thing that I've talked about when I've knocked on doors is, in fact, the story that I told you about going down to the Capitol. Because I want people to know who I truly am. What got me into this? It wasn't, hey, there's a seat and a Republican isn't running in this seat. And I think I'll run. That sounds fun. No, it had nothing to do with that. I had no clue what a District 20 was when I decided to run. I thought I still lived in District 16 because, prior to the redistricting, everything changed. And so now we have a district and that is essentially 10,100 Republican, 10,600 active Democrat, and about 8,600 independents.
Pretty split, yeah.
Very, very split,
Yep.
very split, very, very much in game. Again, nothing that I knew of before I got in the game had nothing to do about that. So talking to people a lot about going down to the Capitol and men's and women's sports. It's been very interesting when I bring that up to someone who's a Democrat or an independent. As soon as I say that, it goes from, this is just some politician at my door, trying to earn my vote, to, I completely agree. Oh man, yes, we are too far the other way.
You're going to learn, Mike, and you already have probably. All this stuff the consultants told you, that all people want to talk about is taxes and jobs, actually not true.
I've actually never believed that.
And the best way that we can actually make inroads with voters on the other side are these very culture war issues, actually. That's what you're finding in that kind of a district.
That's exactly what I'm finding.
Yeah. It's the other stuff where they think you're just a shill whore for corporations, so they don't care about you, right? That's what they think. Until you start talking about the cultural issues, and they realize, oh, well, there's more to you than that, right? Yeah. See, folks, there's a reason why I tell you the things I've been telling you over all these years. All right, before we go, how can people, because, by the way, the party is running great ads for you. So I know I complain about Team GOP a lot. Team GOP is running phenomenal ads for you here in Iowa. If people want to support your candidacy, or other guys are just like, hey, I want to follow in his footsteps, where would you have them go?
Best place to go is the website, pikeforsenate.com, P-I-K-E-F-O-R, Senate.com. You can give through that. You can request a yard sign if you live in the district. I literally have people requesting a yard sign every day, whether it's a barn sign or just a regular yard sign. I probably do have the coolest yard signs of any candidate running.
I like Pike is very good. Yes.
It's the Iowa blackout license plate.
Yep.
But go there and you can learn about me. You can give if you'd like, or if you'd like to help out door knocking. We're out every day. We're hitting it hard. Last 30 days, it is serious go time, and I just will not finish or will not be done with this until we finish strong on the last day. So we're going to be out door knocking every single day until then, and I just appreciate people's support.
Well, appreciate your willingness to step in and do this and take this on. We didn't even talk about your opponent. He's actually a member of the Democrat Party legislative leadership here in our state. All right, so you're not taking on a neophyte or a nobody. He's one of the last competitive members of Democrat leadership left in the state of Iowa, and you're taking him on in your very first race. You're doing that while running a business. You're doing that with a family of 5, 2 kids that are seniors this year, and all that goes along with that extra 2. So you're setting an example, brother, so thank you. And here's hoping that you inspired at least 1 or 2 other men in this audience to follow in your footsteps, all right? God bless you, man.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
You bet. Hour 2 is next. Stay tuned. All right, we're back here with Hour 2, live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. Steve Deace here with Todd Erzin, Aaron McIntyre, and all of you. And you can let us know what you think about what we think. You can do that by emailing the show, steve@stevedeace.com. Like us on Facebook, me, we, and Gab. You can follow me at Steve Deace Show on X, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. You can subscribe to our new YouTube page as well, at Deace Show on YouTube. That's at Deace Show on YouTube. And if you listen to the podcast version, please, if you would mind, leave us a 5-star review if you like the show. And thank you to all who have done so already. And then also make sure to hit subscribe, or if you're on iTunes, follow, because that will make sure that every time we do a new episode here on Blaze Media, it shows up in your podcast feed every single time. We are brought to you by our friends over at First Liberty. So, of course, we finally get some constitutionally edifying Supreme Court decisions, like striking down Roe v. Wade, like striking down the Chevron doctrine that created a lot of the modern day administrative state. Like, no, you can't just do random prosecutions of political persecution against your political opponents, right? No, you can't just take the nominee of your rival party and remove him from the ballot for no reason. No, you can't do that. So, of course, in response, the people that hate our Constitution and have shredded it already in both their mind, hearts, and deeds, They now want to, quote, reform the court. And I think we all know the kind of court reform they're talking about, guys, is not what people like me have been talking about on the right here for the last decade plus. So if you want to lend your name to an effort to stop them, our friends at First Liberty are on that battlefield as they have been for many, many years, winning and taking a lot of ground in this arena. You can help them push back here as well. Say no to the Supreme Court coup. That's really what it is. It's not reform. It's a coup. And you can do that by going to supremecoup.com/Steve. Lend your name there and learn how you can help to stop the spirit of the ages takeover of what's left of our Constitution. At supremecoup.com/Steve, COUP for supremecoup.com/Steve. All right, at the bottom of the hour, we're going to get into some Pop Culture Tuesday. We're going to get to Idolatry or Not here in a minute, but I wanted to know if you guys had any thoughts before we move on about the conversation we just had with a longtime buddy of mine, Mike Pike, just a regular guy. And I know there's not going to be a lot of voters in one suburban Des Moines state Senate district here in this vast national audience, but that's not why we put Mike on here. We put Mike on here because, to me, he's the archetype of the amount of potential that we have right now among the men in this audience and all over the country that is on the sidelines, and we have to get in the game. And if we haven't hit that breaking point yet of, all right, hell no. If we haven't hit that yet, then I don't even want to even contemplate what that breaking point would be if it's not what we've seen already. And so I think for a lot of guys, it really is, can I do this? Am I capable of this? Will I get the support and stuff? What do I need? Will my family stand by me? And I don't know everybody's family situations. That I don't know. Okay? But I've known Mike for almost 20 years. Mike is a smart guy, but not in the traditional technocratic political sense. All right,
thank God.
He's not a guy that understands how to run a focus group or what a quorum call is, and he doesn't care. Okay, all right, he doesn't care. Mike's a different kind of smart. He's the guy that you call when it's 97 degrees and your AC just petered out and you're dying at your house. Okay, and to me, a guy that runs a successful, but I mean, he's not a millionaire either, but a successful small business with with kids he adores, but there's never enough time and still never enough money. That's a pretty common plight among the men in this audience, right? And I wanted Mike to come on here and provide an example of inspiration that there's a lot more of us that can do this than we think. A lot more of us that can do this than we think. And I absolutely believe that. If I didn't believe that, guys, I wouldn't be that hard on you. When my son comes to me, and Noah loves sports every bit as much as his old man, he's not the world's greatest athlete. We don't have the level of giftedness in our family in terms of athletics that the Erzin family has, for example. So when Noah gets into a varsity football game and gets a pass breakup, knowing that that's not the area where he's gifted, man, I'm making that look like that's, Charles Woodson just picked off Ryan Leaf in the 98 Rose Bowl. You know what I'm saying? Because I know that's a big deal for him to do something beyond his potential. When Noah writes, because I think he's got a lot of God-given potential there. When Noah writes, my expectations are way higher. I'm much more inclined to say, that's okay. I think he can do better. If we did not know and believe that the level of potential that is untapped just in this audience, I can't even contemplate like a Bongino or Shapiro or Beckian size of audiences, the amount of untapped potential within those audiences, but just within ours. If we did not think there was a lot among the men here of untapped potential, and a lot of men that probably are miserable, even if they don't realize why, or they feel unsatisfied or discontented, even if they don't realize why, and it's because deep down their subconscious knows they were meant for more than this, and that potential is untapped and it's just sitting there. If we did not believe this, we wouldn't be as hard on you as we are. Because then we'd just be mean, right? Then you're just asking people to do what they can't do, what they're not capable of. You and I, between the two of us, have raised 7 children, or in the process of raising 7 children. So we've got a lot of mistakes and successes and failures to contemplate and learn and experience to learn from in this arena of mentoring and discipling, right?
Yes.
You don't ask people to do that, which you know they're not capable of doing, right? That's just and then when you do and they fail or they're not good enough and you just hammer them for it, now you're just a jerk. You're just a bully. There's nothing uplifting about that, right? Right. So we're hard on you men because we know. Look at what Mike said a few minutes ago. 48 years old. I thought I'd done enough. Took my dad's business, made it bigger. Raised a family. So far, no one's gone to prison or is on a terrorist watch list yet. But then you go down to your state house, you're like, how the hell did we get here? And you realize, I still haven't done enough. We're going to have to do more than this. And it's not really what I want to do, but I don't see anybody else doing it. That's really just as simple as it is. Now, did we say it was easy? Did I say it was easy? Nope. Is it easy driving to Kansas City for volleyball tournaments, leaving right after to then make a 3-hour drive north to Des Moines to then spend 4 hours, And it's been an abnormally warm fall so far too, So, a lot of these weekends have been very warm for this time of year, and he's out there door knocking. And that's after, by the way, he's working 60 hours a week with his company, right?
Right.
Not easy, right? Not easy. Okay. But it is simple. When it comes to dominion, something will always rule. Something must always be worshipped, men. Let me repeat that. Something will always rule. Something must always be worshipped. Those are iron laws of the universe. They cannot be broken. They cannot be. They're embedded into the code of the cosmos by the Creator himself. Something will always rule. Something will always be worshipped. Period. End of sentence. Someone else the Republicans weren't going to leave that seat open for that district this year. Right?
Right.
So if it wasn't going to be a guy with the right kind of convictions and motivations, it might have been someone else that's just running that doesn't care about the district, but it's his chance to run for Congress one day.
Bank on it,
so there was going to be a GOP nominee, right? Yeah. There was going to be one, right? Whether you show up or not, they're going to have the school board meeting this Tuesday, right? Going to have one. They didn't say, hey, Joe on Elm Street didn't come to the school board meeting, so I guess we're not having it. They're going to have it, right?
Yeah.
Whether you show up or not. Dominion will be exercised whether you show up or not, right?
Oh, you just summed up school districts across the entire plain, including in red states.
Yes. The war will go on whether we show or not. The enemy is not like they're just really busy, so we'll stop taking ground and turning their institutions against them until they have time. That's not how it works. Power will be claimed. Power will be wielded. Dominion will be exercised whether we show or not. So here is my big idea and why I chose Dominion for our theme this year. Why don't we try showing up? Just see what happens. We'll just show up now. See what happens. Won't always turn out great. Pastor John down there in North Carolina showed up. He got arrested and they drove him out of there. All right. But on the other hand, you might get elected. You might have your voice be heard. No, I can't guarantee just showing up will turn out the way we want. I can guarantee how not showing up will turn out. I can guarantee that.
Yes.
I can guarantee 100%, 100% us not showing up, how that will turn out, because that dominion will be exercised, whether we're the ones exercising it and claiming it or not. I can 100% guarantee how that will turn out if we don't show up. No guarantees if we do. The greatest hitters that ever lived in the history of baseball still failed 6 to 7 out of 10 times. All right? So no guarantees. We still crucified our Lord. They still murdered the apostles. So there's no guarantee east of Eden. Except when it comes to not doing something. Then there's a guarantee. There's a guarantee of what will happen if we don't show up. You guys have any thoughts you want to add to that?
Well, it's amazing, Steve. Our entire adult political life, we've been hearing from Republicans and conservatives how important small government and local control is, and that's like one of the things we've been the worst at, and perhaps intentionally, because, okay, that's what you want? You don't just want the apparatchiks, the so-called experts? Well, then you're up. We the people. Well, I don't know. I got a guy on the line for a pair of white walls over. Yeah, no. Folks, here's what you need to know about Mike Pike. I've gotten to know him in him doing work for me as he's done for Steve. That's how I met him in person in the first place. Met him socially. I've been invited to his men's group before. I see what he does in front of the media. I was there when he kicked off his campaign, I believe it was late last spring, in a gathering of friends and those who would be assisting him. And Mike Pike is Mike Pike is Mike Pike. You see it over and over and over again the same way, except the one unique thing was when that kickoff thing last spring when I was there. And I saw a slightly different Mike Pike. But it is the Mike Pike that governs everything else and why you know what you're going to get in the good times, the bad times, whatever, because he said the same things about why he's doing this as what's as important, but he was in the presence of his wife and his children, who I haven't met all his kids, but I met them, most of them. And when he was talking about why he's doing this, he was looking at them, and that confident, strong, burly, not mixing words guy right there, his voice cracked. Got a little wet in the eyes, and he's looking at his family. And he just was, enough. No. And so if the guy is wondering out there after listening to Mike or listening to Steve and I, what about me? Where was my place in the world? Look at your family. Look at them. And say enough. For them, no. And that'll be enough. And it's clearly enough in Mike Pike, because that's why you get Mike Pike everywhere else. And that's why no matter what comes at him, and if he wins and the people come to start and massage, Mike Pike will say, look back at his family again. And he'll know exactly what to do.
Yeah. I believe he was referring to the event back in February, which was the impetus for him running, right? Where they went to the rotunda at the Capitol, and saw the saw the mob of just people who have been given over as of now to hellish ideologies, just chanting nonstop vulgarities and doctrines of demons in the Iowa State House. And the average Joe might. If the average Joe doesn't even show up there, but if he did, go home, say to his buddies, boy, this is madness. And then the next breath would be, did you catch the game? Or what are you doing this weekend? Without a second thought. Instead, Mike Pike said, you know what? There is an open seat here, as of now unopposed, to somebody who would put his stamp of approval on the madness that I just saw with my own eyes, the mob. I'm just going to do what I can. You don't have to move mountains. You just have to do what you can do. Mm-hmm. And in Mike Pike's case, you know what? I can do this. I can do this. And so he did. Operative word there is what? Do. Do.
Do. Yep. It's an action verb. Most things are action verbs. So if there's anybody in this audience, you're like, I don't even know where to get started. You know what I would do, frankly? Here's his website, man. Just go to Pike for Senate. I just almost copy what he's doing. Just put your own name in, with your own issues, your own community, whatever you want to do. But this guy's learning on the fly, just like a lot of you are too. And, the best way to learn is to do. They've got a simple website, something that could be emulated for a lot of different things if you wanted to run for a lot of different audiences or offices around the country. All right, so pikeforsenate.com, FOR, pikeforsenate.com. But we are not a nation of laws, and we never have been. We are a nation of political will, and we always will be. The dominion will be imposed, whether we show up or not. They're not just going to cancel the governing. They're not just going to cancel the elections. They're not just going to cancel the legislatures. They're not just going to say, oh man, the Patriots didn't show up again. No, their game's going to go on. whether the Patriots hit the field or not. So we might as well show up. They're going to tax us more than they need. Or at least they're going to try to, whether we show up or not. They're going to trans and mutilate our kids. Or they're going to try to, whether we show up or not. They're going to try to debase your currency and manage the decline and to lead you into the North American Union and the World Economic Forum. Or try to, whether we show up or not. They're going to keep the border open and keep importing criminals and drug mules and human traffickers. Or try to, whether we show up or not. So we might as well show up.
Get busy living or get busy dying.
Amen. All right. Let's get to idolatry or not. And when you have arguably the man with the biggest non-Joe Rogan media platform on the continent, Tucker Carlson, sitting down with the richest man on planet Earth, who also owns the largest creator, generator, and aggregator of political content on planet Earth. Okay? When they sit down and start talking, that is going to generate some buzz, right? Kind of impossible for that to not go viral.
One way or the other.
Yeah, one way or the other. Even before anybody says a word, okay? Just that visual is going to go viral, right? Okay. And there were a couple of clips that came out of this that I want us to discuss from checking ourselves. I think you always have to check your own, the condition of your own integrity and to make sure you're not becoming, and not in a way, by the way, where, I've turned trying to avoid idolatry into idolatry. So now I'm paralyzed and I'm numb and I don't do anything for fear that, you see what I'm saying? Because that can happen too. The old analyzing is paralyzing can happen too. So there's a fine line there, right? You do want to make sure you don't get, so convinced of your own cause that you're no longer checking your own ethics, integrity, and motivations, right?
Right.
And I thought these two clips, playing them back to back and considering them, would give us, not Tucker and Elon, but us as a show, given the position that we have taken as a show on this election in particular since July the 13th, a chance to make sure that we're not, high in our own supply. Fair?
Fair.
All right, so watch these two clips from that interview.
If she wins, how can they let X continue in its current form, in its current role in American society?
They won't. They will try to shut it down by any means possible.
What do you mean by any means possible?
I mean, with law, either via, they'll try to pass laws. They'll try to prosecute the company, prosecute me. The amount of lawfare that we're seeing taking place is outrageous. I have many examples, but like the Department of Justice, for example, launched a huge lawsuit against SpaceX for failing to hire asylum seekers.
Come on.
Yeah,
asylum seekers?
Not asylum, those who've been granted asylum seekers. Now there's also a law called the International Traffic and Arms Regulations that because SpaceX develops advanced missile technology that can be used in nuclear ICBMs, that we have to be very careful with who we hire. We can only hire someone if they're a permanent resident or a citizen. That's what the ITAR law says. Then there's another law that says that you cannot discriminate against asylum seekers. So we're damned if you do, damned if you don't. The DOJ did a massive lawsuit against SpaceX for failing to hire asylum seekers, even though it is illegal for us to hire asylum seekers under ITAR law. This is an actual thing that's going on, and they can only do a fairly small number of lawsuits every year. So why did they pick this one?
Because you want X.
Yeah, lawfare. My view is that if Trump doesn't win this election, it's the last election we're going to have. That the Democrats, the Dem machine, has been importing so many people, bringing in so many illegals, flying in with this like CBP border app thing that nobody even knew about, like secret program. That's illegal, basically. It's illegal, but there's no action by the DOJ to actually to stop it from happening. They're transporting large numbers of illegals to swing states. If you look at the numbers, these are the numbers from the government website. So, like from the Democrat-administered government websites. Like, where do you get this data? From the government website that is run by Democrats. And there are triple-digit increases in illegals to all the swing states. And in some cases, it's like 700% over the last 3 years. Now, these swing state margins are, sometimes 10, 20,000 votes. So what happens if you put, hundreds of thousands of people into each swing state? And when somebody is granted asylum, they are fast-tracked. They can get a green card, and then 5 years after the green card, they can get citizenship and they can fully legally vote. And when they do so, they vote overwhelmingly Democrat. And sometimes they get this rebuttal of like, well, a lot of them, their social values don't align with sort of the far left sort of woke ideology. Yeah. I said that's true, but that's not their top priority. Their top priority is getting their friends and family also to the United States. And the Dems also issue all these programs, these sort of handouts, essentially, that make them beholden to the Democratic Party. So they vote Dem. That's what happens. So my prediction is if there's another 4 years of a Dem administration, they will legalize so many illegals that are there that the next election, there won't be any swing states. And we'll be a single party country. Just like California is a single-party state, it's a supermajority Dem state in California.
Because of immigration?
Yes. California was fairly reliably Republican.
Bill Clinton lost California in '92 and won West Virginia.
Yes. So there was a 1986 amnesty.
Yes.
Thereafter, California trended very strongly Dem, and is at this point, I think, 65-70% Dem, something like that. It's supermajority Dem. The California legislature is more than 2/3 Democrat.
Okay. So I think Musk did a decent job there of articulating some of the existential issues that we have highlighted, which is why we have been willing to, for now, set aside our still unredeemed disappointment and disgust for how Trump managed COVID, Operation Warp Speed, and some of the other non-conventional positions on some of the traditional positions people like us have had, like abortion, for example. But here's the question. Is this an excuse? Is it real? Is this alarmism? Are these justifications? See where I'm going with this?
Yeah. Okay.
So let's hold ourselves accountable, because I think a lot of what he said probably sums up a lot of the varying thoughts that all three of us on this show have about this moment we're in. Okay. But maybe those are rationalizations and not true. And we are scaring people and alarming them that things are not as immediately dire as how Musk is articulating them, even though we up to this point have tended to do the same.
I have a high degree of confidence that if we remove Donald Trump and all the derangement syndromes that come from him, and we take somebody on the right, whether you were a listener to this show or weren't, Dace wasn't your cup of tea, from just a decade ago, certainly 20 years ago, and you put him in front of this, and you hear the reality of just this, don't add anything to it, any other issues, you would instantly be reminded of the Aesop-like cautionary tales of the pot in, of what happens when you throw frog in a pot of boiling water versus if you slowly turn the heat up, or Steve, I know you've said the story, the scorpion who wants to hitch a ride on the frog's back across and at the end gets stung in the outdone. And what do you expect? I'm a scorpion.
It's my nature.
Take either one. Like, we would react to these as any kind of person of the right, ardently pro-life, or kind of in the mushy middle. But we would see this, and we say that's a disaster. That's unsustainable. It doesn't matter what you think about being pro-life or not. They plan on taking your life away. All life, in the womb or out. Isn't that clear from this? And I think these are 2 clips. I think you can do that with more clips yet that have some to do with Elon Musk and some not anything to do with Elon Musk. I don't think these are distractions. I don't think these are justifications. I think these are proof that whether you care, they plan on coming after your life in the womb or out.
Aaron?
Correct. If we just take the average Republican president over the last, 30 years, so that would be, that'd be a combination of HWW and Trump. Is it possible, is it likely, I should say, that there's going to be a mass deportation of illegals? Probably not. Are the chances better, though, with President Kamala, or President Trump? The chances that we're actually going to be able to fix the damage that's been done. Undoubtedly, I think, I don't know how much greater the chances are, it's with Trump. I think we need to get something through our heads here. This goes beyond just Democrats trying to get single party control of this country. That is true. I don't know how you could look at the immigration policies of Barack Obama and Joe Biden and not come to that conclusion.
Or even just pushing ranked choice voting, for example.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's not just about that, though. The left, or the World Economic Forum cabal's goal is the mass homogenization of Western culture. Mm-hmm. There's nothing uniquely American. There's nothing uniquely British. There's nothing uniquely German. There's nothing uniquely French. That is their goal. Do you have a better chance of standing up against their long-term goals with Kamala or with Donald Trump? I don't think there's really much of an answer there. Will it actually get done? I don't know, but there's a better chance. I think there's another thing that we need to consider here. Life, if Donald Trump actually follows through on this issue alone, life is about to get really hard for a lot of people, actually. This is going to be, again, I said this a few weeks ago, this is going to make COVID look like tiddlywinks. Mm-hmm. And then you couple that in with January 15th. That's when that's when the longshoremen strike begins again.
The week before the inauguration. Funny how that works. Mm-hmm. Funny, haha. Yeah. Pop Culture Tuesday's next. When you reach that stage of life where you start thinking about what am I going to leave behind, and making sure that everybody's taken care of and the decisions that need to be made are well articulated. And, we're at that stage of life. Amy and I are, which is why a couple of years ago when we brought Trust and Will on, Amy went over there to update, our estate stuff and end of life stuff. And she just raved about how both convenient it was, but then also how customizable it was too. So it may feel complicated, guys, but it doesn't have to be, So keeping your family prepared and protected by managing your will or trust online. And each will or trust you can do that with Trust and Will. And each will or trust is state specific, legally valid, and again, customized to your needs. All right. So ensure your family and loved ones avoid lengthy, expensive legal proceedings or the state deciding what happens to your assets or your kids. Let Trust and Will uncomplicate the process for you. Protect what matters most in minutes. Go to trustandwill.com/Deace, trustandwill.com/Deace. trustandwill.com/dace and get 10% off plus free shipping. That's 10% off plus free shipping of your documents at trustandwill.com/dace. By the way, a couple of quick emails I have received. Janine in Kentucky says, when I saw a dead bug in the fridge vegetable drawer beneath peppers, celery, and lettuce, I called my husband. Bug removal is in his job per the wedding marriage manual. He picked it up with bare fingers and said, it's a wasp and it's still alive. The antennae are even moving. Don't even try to figure out how it got there. She says, I don't have to because I watch your show. There's another one.
For the love of God. The notes in either direction on wasps are only like messing with the juju. I say, look away, everyone, please.
Here's another one.
Or that.
We've lived on our acreage west of Des Moines over a decade, and this summer is the worst for wasps we've ever had. Everyone I would kill had 10 to replace it. Didn't Jesus say a parable about you kill one, 10 wasps come back? Was that it's not a parable? No. Okay. I finally gave up and just he writes Jordan or I think it's Jordan writes, I finally gave up and just let them live, but they're a constant reminder that Dace would die here. My acreage is like the CPAC of the Midwest. Oh gosh, thought that was good. All right, let's get to what's not good right now. And we all saw Joker at the time, right?
Yeah.
And we all thought at the time it was somewhere between great and a masterpiece, right?
It was well done, yeah.
And the thing about the film, we could, and if you guys don't remember, because I think that came out in 2019, right? Pre-COVID is when Joker came out. Wasn't it the fall of 2019?
I honestly have no idea
I think
anymore.
It came out the fall of 2019, so pre-COVID.
Yep, you're right.
And the left hated the film. Hated it. And if you've seen the movie, you can see why they hated it. Because it essentially provides a place where does a society or a culture go when it's just become completely soulless? When there is no more purpose or meaning, it's let go of the rope. Absolutes are gone. There's nothing there. And what's the greatest line in the first film? When he goes on to Robert De Niro's talk show, when he's finally getting the notoriety that he has wanted by acting out, right? And he goes on this talk show, and De Niro says, "What are you, some kind of hippie or something? Are these a bunch of protests? You know, you're trying to score political points. What is this?" And he looks at me and he says, "What?
I don't believe in anything.
I don't believe in anything." I mean, not since the original Wonder Woman did we have as many like meta-level conversations about a movie after we saw it as we did that film. I mean, we brought that film up back in the fall of 2020 and the pre-COVID era. We interjected it into lots of different conversations. And apparently we weren't the only ones, because at the time, it became the first R-rated film to ever earn $1 billion globally. Joaquin Phoenix won the Academy Award for Best Actor, and then the entire world shut down like a week later, right? Okay. And we kind of got a glimpse of what it looks like when I don't believe in anything, right? Mm-hmm. There was talk off and on of a sequel. There was never intended to be. This was never intended to be a franchise. It was intended. It's not even considered to be canon of the Zack Snyder DC universe, or now the James Gunn DC universe, that they're restarting the entire thing with Superman next July. That this was just kind of what they call an off-label, one-off story, right? And it does. The original film takes great liberties with even, we don't really have a definitive origin of the Joker in Batman canon, but there are several different ones, and this movie takes liberties with all of them. It's clearly meant to be an original tale, right? Okay. And there's it even intimates that Thomas Wayne, Bruce Wayne's father, is the father of Arthur Fleck, the Joker, and that they're, half brothers. So, I mean, the film was never meant to necessarily be like the comic book fanboy movie, but social commentary. The problem is the people that folks like filmmaker Todd Phillips want to hang with and roll with didn't appreciate his social commentary and didn't like it as much as the folks that they don't like, people like us, did, right? So they decided they had to come up with an idea. And Warner Brothers, of course, wanted to make a sequel. Whenever a movie makes $1 billion, let's see if we can squeeze some more blood out of that turnip, right? Okay. So they told us about 2 years ago that there's going to be a Joker 2, and Lady Gaga is going to play Harley Quinn. And there was a lot of interest in that, and Harley Quinn has become a character who was never in the comic book. She was actually created for the Batman, the award-winning Batman cartoon in the early 90s after the Tim Burton Batman films. She was created for that cartoon and then became so popular, they then ex post facto wrote her into the comics. But she was not a character that translated from the comics to the cartoons or to live action. It was the other way around. And Lady Gaga's, I think she got nominated for an Oscar, maybe won one for A Star Is Born. Her acting career was on the way up. She's obviously one of the biggest music talents in the world. So there was a lot of thought about, this is some inspiring casting. And then a few months later, they told us, except it's going to be a musical. And then people were like, okay, right? And then the movie came out this weekend, and it has, so there's
Did you see it?
So I was going to go see it. I was planning to see it Friday night. And then I read enough stuff about it. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm out. Okay. It's very clear that Todd Phillips made this movie to insult the intended audience for it. It's very clear when you, one thing about the movie, because I avoid spoilers like the plague until I realize I'm not going to see a movie, then I'll read them. So the reviews were so bad that that's originally what had me not go see it this weekend as I had planned. And then after I decided I wasn't going to see it at all, I read some of the spoilers. So for example, he gives up the Joker motif at the end. And Harley Quinn takes on fully the Harley Quinn motif. So again, girl boss, again, I'm out on the whole girl boss thing. I'm just out completely on it. Okay. Much of the subject matter of the film, it looks like it's absolutely intended to mock its intended audience. I mean, I've even seen mainstream corporate media reviewers that are like, they had to try to make this movie this bad. These musical numbers are terribly orchestrated. They make no sense. There's no point to them. And Nefarious is one example, one of the biggest examples of this disconnect between how the public has seen a film and the corporate reviewers are, not this movie. This movie's at 30% on Rotten Tomatoes right now among the critics. It's at 31% among the public. All right. Also, CinemaScore, which is another rating system, CinemaScore has this the lowest rated comic book movie ever. Worse than the Fantastic Four 2015 film, which is one of the worst movies I've ever seen in a theater, by the way. Worse than Madam Web, which came out earlier this year, which I never even saw nor plan to. All right. So I'm going to propose something. You have one of the greatest actors who ever lived. You have one of the greatest characters ever created. I mean, Jack Nicholson is one of the greatest actors ever. He did the role first in a film. Heath Ledger won a Best Actor for doing the Joker. Joaquin Phoenix won a Best Actor for doing the Joker. I mean, this is one of the plum roles in all of popular culture, is getting to play this character, right? You have the exact same production team that did the first one, and it's $1 billion movie and it wins Oscars. I'm going to propose you have to try to be this bad. You cannot do this accidentally. You have to try to be this bad. And therefore, I believe they did this intentionally. And I think that this is an ongoing middle finger as Hollywood increasingly falls flat on its face for producing content the public doesn't want, And now it is actively producing content the public does and then desecrating it on purpose as a way to insult us right to our face. I just don't think you can be this bad on purpose. I just don't. I just don't believe you can be this bad on purpose. You have to try. And I think that I think you especially have to try to alienate the critics and the public at the same time. So what do you guys think?
I think you can be this.
You do?
Yeah. That people, listen, comic book movies and, sci-fi, Star Wars, all that stuff, Avengers, it's all been butchered. And it's not just because people have been trying. It's because, there's clearly been a want and a need by the people that even in the face of bad content, they're ready and willing to come back for more because this has a pornographic hold on them. I made the same comment about sports. It's very passive. They get to feel like they're part of the game while never even coming close to being part of the game. And that's just an addiction that they have now. So, and once that relationship continues to build, I mean, it's obviously not doing well, but I don't think this is something unique would have to be happening here. I'd have to see like an about face and change, like, oh, we finally learned a lesson. All the lessons that are learned is that we will continue to make bad content. Now, I think what you're saying is not existent in this equation. In fact, it's a primary variable. I just don't think it's the only variable. And quite frankly, I don't think they know up from down anymore in terms of this stuff. Good, bad, what does that even mean? Mm-hmm. Which, hey, that means the Joker won even more than he thought. They don't believe in anything. So sometimes they randomly fall into something that works for the population at large. Sometimes they don't. I actually think we're seeing the Joker's worldview writ large.
All right, Aaron, before I get your take, let's remind our audience, if they're going to try to take advantage of their attempts to manipulate interest rates on behalf of Kamala, make sure if that's you, I can't blame you if that's you, but make sure before you go into this real estate market in these unprecedented times.
Bing, bing, bing.
Make sure you've got an agent that you can trust, and you're going to find them where the name says it all. Go to realestateagentsitrust.com. That's realestateagentsitrust.com, and there we have a database of agents that we have verified their track records of success before we recommend them to you from all over the country, and a lot of times they're also from right here in our audience at the Blaze, so you guys have values in common too. And they can make sure whether you want to get across town or all the way across the country, that you can get to the end game of the W that you're looking for, but you need an agent you can trust. Again, that's realestateagentsitrust.com. Head over there now. The name says it all. realestateagentsitrust.com. Aaron?
The air that Hollywood breathes is and exhales is one of a transgressive nature. That's their goal right now in all things, with very few exceptions. I mean, Bella and I just watched Inside Out 2. Great movie. Really fun movie. That's the exception more than the norm. The norm is always attempting to iconoclast things to the hilt. Mm-hmm. Make sure, a great example, I can think of two. I'm not going to share the second one because it's just so over the top, trying to ruin. But I think it's the original Winnie the Pooh. I might be getting, but something regarding Winnie the Pooh went into the public domain recently, within the last couple of years. Immediately, there was a film in the works, like a horror Winnie the Pooh film. I just saw another example of that just recently, where they're using Winnie the Pooh because it's public domain for a video game that's just, it's like, the developers of this, I'm not going to even say what it is. The developers of this video game need to have their hard drives checked by the FBI. That their goal. I'm bringing up an extreme example to illustrate that their goal is to make sure whether or not the story is a good story. It's about a bad person in the Joker, but it's a good story. Their goal is to smash that. Their goal is to ruin that. Their goal is to make that rot and decay. That is what the goal is. I said the Joker, kind of up there with, I always forget the name, The Revenant. Best movie I never want to watch again.
That's a great way to describe that film, too, because it is great, but I never want to see it again.
Correct.
Yes.
But it was a good story. But it was about a bad guy. And because there was something good in there, they have to make sure that is destroyed and smashed. Whatever messages, whatever commentary in there that was right on the money, we got to make sure we got to smash that. That is the air they breathe. That is the posture towards the world. And it's only actually maybe blind luck that every now and then we get some good films with good stories that come out of Hollywood. These days, anyway.
Well, let's end on a high note. Got this great uplifting note from Ken Agent, who says a coworker was stung by a wasp several months ago, had a severe anaphylactic reaction, and eventually passed away. As far as we know, he didn't even have any known allergies to wasps. He was around 50.
Amen.
So I just want America to know I'm risking my life for you right now. Okay? Be reminded. Recognize the bravery being demonstrated to America here today.
I actually appreciate it. Doing this on Skype, I'm on edge every single day. So good to have a day off from that.
Yes, yeah. So it was good to see you guys here back in the comfy confines. We're back at it again tomorrow, noon to 2 Eastern, right after Glenn Beck, right here on Blaze TV. For subscribers, we're going to stick around and do overtime. For the rest of you, we'll see you then. Until then, Romans 8:28.